Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Justin Davis. Today we're going to go on a new RC adventure. We're going to fly this Ranger 750 here. It's a little tiny FPV plane, and it's so cool because it's kind of like a miniature version of my much larger Ranger that you've seen on the channel. That is a super beast. It would carry like up to a 15,000 milliamp battery running 4S, but this one is going to run on 2S, and we're going to get a pretty good flight time out of it. I've also put some gear on here. The new FOXEER Nano Predator 4 on here. Nano Predator 4 is a really nice camera for this setup. We have a 400 milliwatt VTX in here, and the new LUMENIER AXII super tiny MMCX type connector antenna on there. And we have a tri-blade prop in the back with a bullet nut that I replaced with a Loctite type of nut. It's just a typical race motor on the back here with a 3mm stem, so I just replaced it with a lock nut. The little tiny bullet nut that comes along with it, they're not very good, and sometimes they fly off mid-flight. So it is also rocking a 5-inch prop on the back, and it has 4 channels. It's a very simple airplane to set up and fly. What I like about it a lot is that it does have pre-installed servos on here for your tail and your ailerons. You have a pusher setup, so you're probably never going to break a prop. And what's also neat is that it does have carbon spars here as well, pre-installed, which is nice. And up front right here, you can bore a hole and put your camera right up front right there on most of the Ranger type planes. But I'm excited to take this one out. It was really easy to set up and get going. It comes with a little transmitter right here as well. The only thing you don't get in the box is FPV gear, so you're going to have to choose what FPV gear you want to put on this plane. But the smaller the better for this little plane. You don't want to weigh it down with anything huge like an AKK 1000 milliwatts or 2000 milliwatt VTX. It would be just a little bit too big. But let's go ahead and let's take this plane out. Let's do some flying with it, and I'll give you my final thoughts and opinions on this new Volantex Ranger 750. Super cool little miniature Ranger. I love these small planes, super portable and fun. Here we go. So this plane is rocking a 29-inch wingspan with a 2S 850 milliamp battery, which should get us about 10 minutes flight time. It also has pre-installed 9-gram servos, which I love. You just hook up the rods and you're good to go. Also predetermined CG points on here. This is great for beginners as well to get your CG right. We also have struts in the tail as well, and slight dihedral on the wingtips, which is nice. It makes it a kind of a softer flying airplane for the new guys. And you can see those spars on the tail again, and the pre-installed servo rods here. Pretty nice with adjustable endpoints. And we have an 1806 2450 kV motor. It's going to get us a decent flight time. We also have a 5x4.5 inch prop. That's a tri-prop. You can probably use one of your quad props, and the LUMENIER AXII antenna on here as well. And we also have a stabilized flight controller with 2.4 gigahertz receiver, 3 flight modes, beginner, mid, and expert, 20 amp ESC, and the servo reverse function. Also a JST battery connector and a FOXEER Predator Nano 4 on mine. Pretty easy to set up the FPV on this plane. So let's go ahead and get it up in the air and do some flying. Here we go.
3, 2, 1, countdown, ready, 3, 2, 1, go. That was not a good launch. Not Diego's fault. Something goes up. Oh, it's in expert mode. All right, guys, we're gonna fly this line of sight, but don't launch in expert mode, because 2 or 3 times now we've tried to launch this plane in expert mode and it just goes straight into the ground. So I'm gonna put it on middle stabilized mode or even beginner mode to launch this. So we'll go ahead and fire out the motor. Oh, just barely clearing the ground. It's gonna make some big banks here. Always fly with your back to the sun, by the way. If you're new to airplanes, you're trying to practice line of sight, back to the sun is always the best way. If you get behind yourself, things get really disorienting. So that's what the plane looks like with 0 throttle. It's kind of like a mini little glider. Seems to have the ESC brake set up too. It's able to really get slow and not stall out and go hitting the ground like before. It's really trying. That little motor is giving it all it's got. Let's go come back, do a buzz by the tower and full throttle up. Right now I have 0 throttle, back nose into the wind. Right over top. Full throttle back up. Gain some altitude. It's kind of cool because it's like a cross between just a little miniature FPV Bixler type plane and a glider. The range seems to be pretty good. I'm kind of scared to put this way out there with this toy controller. But now I'm back to 0% throttle, just gliding. Since we have a little bit of wind today, I can do that. I can kind of put the nose into the wind and almost come to like a 0% airspeed. It's crazy. It's just stalling out right there. It's kind of cool. It's probably blowing about 12 to 15 up top, so we have a ton of wind for this little plane. Look at that. It's actually starting to hit a little bit of an updraft right there. Pretty sweet. Now I'm going to come back around. Still at 0% throttle, just gliding. It's a really great glide ratio, even with the FPV gear on there. I've got a little tiny 20 by 20. It's almost like crabbing into the wind right there. It's awesome. See the turbulence? Wow, it's really turbulent up there. So we're gonna come back up a little more. Getting back up there, here we go. I am in the beginner mode. Again, like the best way to launch this little plane is off, kind of off of a hill and in beginner or mid mode. And you can fly this plane, make big, huge sweeping turns without the rudder. If you don't want to hook up the rudder, you don't have to fly a lot of airplanes without rudder. You can fly with aileron and elevator, no problem. Flies really, really good when the wind dies out. When the wind drops down to about 5 right here, flies really good. But the wind is on and off right now. So we're getting some big gusts coming through here, and then it dies out. But you can get like 10 minutes flight time out of that stock 2S 1000 milliamp battery. It's not bad. Let's put it in expert mode. Expert mode is just gonna let it almost pretty much do a barrel roll, which I probably won't try with this plane unless I'm feeling crazy. Back to mid mode, come back around here. Getting kind of far out there, so I'm gonna come back in closer. But this transmitter seems to have a really good range on it. Probably, I would say 3 football fields. Way further than I expected it to have. Make a big tight loop here. Big tight turn. Back into expert mode here, full throttle up. Going for a loop, a roll, there we go. Did a roll. Way out there, I don't know if you guys could see it or not, but I did it. I always do my rolls kind of like side off to the wind a little bit, so the wind helps push me over. If you get scared, just flip the stick back to beginner mode. It's hard to tell where the top of those trees are. So I'm gonna come back around here. It's really small, really quick way up there. So I'm gonna come in and do a belly land, and most times you guys wanna land nose into the wind. But if you're already flying planes, you know that. Here we go. Let's bring it in long and low. From way out, kill some airspeed here, slow it down. I like to try to land at my feet if I can, but I don't know if I'm going to. Pretty close. Could have caught it. Nice. Nice job.
The smoothest landing yet.
Best landing of today. This front end popped off, but all in all, a fun, cheap little plane to fly.
All right, guys, so that pretty much sums up our review of the Volantex Ranger 750. This little guy is kind of cool because you're not really going to walk into a hobby shop anywhere domestically in the United States and probably be able to buy a plane this size for ready to fly around $100. The other cool thing is that you can start out flying it in stability mode, which is a very beginner friendly mode. Just put it in that beginner mode, and you're always going to launch it in the beginner mode, by the way. I tried to launch it in expert mode, and for whatever reason, the way that the surfaces were set up, the control surfaces would just pitch the nose forward and I would slam into the ground every single time. So ease of use is high on this. It's probably 5 out of 5 for ease of use. So anybody looking to learn how to fly an RC airplane, this is kind of foolproof, especially if you stay in the beginner mode like I did and decide to do. But in expert mode, up in the air is when it'll let you do barrel rolls. So when you get to that point in your learning curve, you can just go into expert mode and start practicing that without the stabilization. Mid mode is going to basically be a little bit less stability, but it's not going to let you roll the wing over. So it will be just less aggressive than the original beginner mode. But as far as durability goes, I gotta say, this thing is crazy durable. The EPO foam, I've flown this stuff before. It took a huge hit in the front right there, smashed into the sidewalk. You guys saw the yard sale, stuff went everywhere. The battery flew out, and I had to reposition some things. The camera got pushed around in there. And the nicest thing is that I was able to put FPV on here without any hot glue or adding any extras on here, just kind of making a hole through the front and securing the camera in the front and the antenna up out the top here. And the only other suggestion I would make is probably just to put a regular just prop nut on the back here, with self-tightening nut instead of that bullet nut. Get rid of that bullet nut. If you fly race quads already, it's a 3mm shaft on the back of here, so you can replace that with the standard style nut. It's not going to give you any problems. But it's cool because also it is a pusher. When you're doing those belly landings, you're likely not to break a prop unless you get it upside down somehow and break a prop. Even then, there's pretty good clearance between the vertical stabilizer and the front of the plane. So a fun flying little plane, and it's easy to take apart as well. I just popped this 2 servo rods off right here for you so you can see how this comes apart, and it's ready for transport. So a very fun plane, and has a lot of options, honestly. I might add a flight controller to this one a little bit later and some GPS, but pretty cool and portable little plane. So I'm going to rate this one at about a 4 point, I'd say about a 4.3 out of 5 stars for this one. Not bad for $100. Thanks again for watching my channel, guys. I'm Justin Davis, the Ranger 750. See you on the next one.